Hello everyone, this is Kevin Griffin. I'm an ambassador for Norvise, and I'll be tying a fly tonight that I call a mop girdle bug. I'll be using my Nor-vise, of course. I've been tying for about 16 or 17 years. The last 12 of those have been exclusively on a Nor-vise. I was one of the first people in Georgia, I think, to own one, and I swore I'd never switch to another vise, and I haven't. I've actually got this one, and then I've got one right beside it, so if a buddy comes over, he's got a Norvise to tie on as well. So shout out to Norvise for making a great product. If you've never tried one, give it a try, and I think you'll see that it makes your job a lot easier on the vise, tying flies. So again, tonight I'll be tying what I call a mop girdle bug. It is a fly that I just kind of put together. I'm sure you fish girdle bugs, or some people call them patch rubber legs. They're extremely effective, and I've had a lot of success with them. Recently, I was in a thrift store with my wife, and I saw this toilet seat, and the fly tyer in me got to looking at it and seeing what kind of flies I could tie out of it. So I picked it up for about $3 or $4. My wife looked at me like I was crazy, and I got home and decided to tie up a girdle bug using the Mop material as a body. And it's been very effective. My wife recently, shout out to her, she caught her personal best rainbow, which was a 22-inch beautiful rainbow here on Fighting Town Creek where we live, and she caught it on this fly actually. So it's been very effective here. I'm sure it'll be effective on your home waters. I'm using a size 8 streamer hook, barbless, and I believe this one is Trout Legend. And then I'm using a black 4mm tungsten bead, and then I also put a little extra weight, and I'm using 0.025 lead wire. And so I like to take the lead wire, I normally wrap it and hold the end with tweezers, and people wonder why I do that, and that's the way I was taught years ago, and it helps save materials, and over years you'll end up saving several spools just by using everything that you take off of the spool. So you get the lead wire on the hook shank, and then I'm using a Norvise auto bobbin, which is one of the greatest inventions I've ever seen in the fly tying industry. I like to build a dam right behind the lead wire first, and after I get the dam built, then I'll go in between the individual lead wraps. If you don't put the dam back here first, then it has a tendency to want to spread out on you, and I like to keep the lead wraps right where I want them. So then just lay down a thread base, and I'm going to put a pretty good thread base on here. And this is one of the features where the Nor-vise comes in very handy, being able to rotate it that fast and put down a thread base quickly. So I get my thread base in. I'm going to come down almost to the bend of the hook. Make sure your shank is covered with thread. And then I'm going to tie in my tail. And for the tail and the legs on this fly, I like to use what they call sexy floss. It's rubber legs. This is medium and brown, variegated, brown and black. So I cut off a strand of it, and then I'll tie in the tail on one side of the fly, put down a few thread wraps to secure it, and then I'll come up the fly just a little bit and then pull the strand back to make the second part of the tail. I like to use just one piece because then it can't pull out of the fly and it makes it more durable. After I do that, I pull the strand to the other part of the tail so that I can cut them the same length. Now I've got the tail tied in, and I'm just going to put down a good thread base again, make sure that all the lead is covered. And after I do that, now I'm ready to attach the mop material. So I cut off a segment of the toilet mat, and then once I get that cut off, I'm going to put down a little bit of Zap-A-Gap, which is kind of like crazy glue for flat tires. And after I get that brushed on, I'm going to lay the body just where it comes just past the entry point of the tail, and then I'm going to secure it with thread. And that Zap-A-Gap just kind of keeps it stationary on top of the hook so it doesn't want to roll. And after I do quite a few wraps of that, I've got it good and secured. Then I'm going to trim this excess, and then I'm going to tie the excess down, just secure it with thread wraps as well. And that puts me back just in front of center on the hook. And then I'm going to put in the legs, so I'll cut another strand of the sexy floss, and then I'll tie in 2 legs on each side. So after I get one thread wrap, I'll position it, and don't worry about it being perfect right now. You can help splay them out when you wrap the dubbing on. So I'm going to measure so that I have two legs the same length, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'll measure this one, get one wrap to secure it, and then pull it onto the side of the hook, and then measure so that they're the same length as well. So now I've got the legs. I'm going to put another 5 or 6 wraps just to get them good and secured so they won't get pulled out. And then for the dubbing, for the thorax, I like to use ice dub. This one is pheasant tail. It just has a good look to it and blends in with the color scheme of this fly and adds just a little bit of flash to it. So I separate it out and then wrap it on the thread and try to keep the wraps kind of tight. And after I get that on, I'm going to pull out each leg and put a thread wrap behind it. That'll help splay them out, and then go right in the center. And then I'll do the same on the front legs. So now you can see that they're splayed out and they're, the same length. So after I've gotten back up to the bead, I whip finish, and I do that by hand. I used to use a whip finish tool and I never could find where it was sitting, so I just made myself learn how to do it by hand. But use a whip finish tool or whatever you have at your disposal to do a good whip finish. I like to take the Zap-A-Gap, put a few beads of it on the thread, so then when I go to whip finish, it's got that Zap-A-Gap to really seal the knot and makes it more durable, so that you don't have to worry about your thread coming undone. And I don't use head cement, I'm using Zap-A-Gap instead. So there's the finished fly. Very buggy pattern, very durable as well. That Mop material lasts forever, and it's a heavy fly. I do a lot of European nymphing, and normally you're using a 2-fly rig, and this would be my anchor fly, normally my bottom fly, and then I have one off the tag above it that'll be a lighter fly, so this one really gets down, and that way you can fish two parts of the water column. So this has been very effective here. Give it a try on your home waters, and I think you'll be happy with it. And I appreciate you watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Tight lines.